My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Hi, welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at iba pa. I am Joe Bernardo, and I'm joined by my fellow hosts,
Ryan Carpio,
Elaine Delalis,
and Mike.
Producer Mike.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Hello.
It's been a long time.
It has. We also have a special guest for this episode.
Who is it? Tell us.
Giovanni Ortega.
Hey, Giovanni. What up, Gio?
What up, y'all?
I'm slow.
Hi, Gio. How you doing?
I'm good. How y'all doing?
Good. It was a nice trek, a nice travel to the San Fernando Valley and to my studios here.
Yes.
Berlado Studios.
I'm really digging the Santo Niño, though. I mean,
It protects Ryan.
Yeah, it does. I need it.
Cool. Well, welcome. Today we're actually going to hear from Gio, and he's going to tell us some stories.
Nice story time.
Some oral
Cuentos.
stories. Yeah, some cuentos.
I'm all about stories.
Yeah, so it's a little different format than previous, but I hope you will all enjoy it.
Yes, and this episode, our TFAL of the episode is Ryan.
What?
F. Dionisio.
Dionisio. Oh, nice.
Yeah, right.
Wait, do you really know?
No,
related,
I know
right?
the last name.
I know the last name too.
Yeah.
I
know the first name.
Do you really?
No, it's
Ryan, like Ryne.
Yes.
Oh, like Ryan Sandberg, the famous Cubs. I wonder if
Oh, yeah.
they're named after a Cubs.
Oh, I don't know. But I do know he's a wrestling fan because he has a Bullet Club shirt and he's been to
What?
stuff and he's tagged us. So thank
we
you,
do know you,
T-Pal.
Ryan.
We do know you.
Thank you for your support, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And today we also have a voicemail, which I will play right now.
Ooh.
What's up, TFAL crew? This is Neal McGuire, big fan. Been listening to your guys' podcast for some time now, and I'm actually based out of Las Vegas and travel to the LA area a ton. And on that drive, I actually listen to your guys' podcast like nonstop. Anyways, I just listened to your podcast with Eugene Cordero and thought it was awesome. I've been a fan of his since I kind of spotted him couple of years ago on YouTube, and he had talked about basements, and I'm actually from Chicago, grew up there, and I used to use my basement for, when we were teenagers, we couldn't really go out yet, but that's where we used to break dance. So we would break dance there and just kind of do a lot of kalakuhan down there, all kinds of stuff. But unfortunately, being frugal Filipinos, we didn't have like a basement that was done up. Most of the Puti people had like a really nice basement. Ours was strictly concrete, but it was just a creative place, and it was an awesome space. Yeah, now that I live on the West Coast, it's unfortunate that I don't have one. Anyways, thanks for all the hard work that you guys do. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work. All right, bye.
Yay!
Hey,
Yay.
Thanks. So, Gio, you're also from Chicago, correct?
that's right.
Yeah.
Did you have a basement? Yes.
Yeah. No, we didn't. We were just in like one of those brick buildings. We had,
Oh, yeah.
Like the second floor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you had a flat. But did you have a...
I had a lot of friends who had basements, so we would
Got it.
spend a lot of time learning tinikling or...
Oh man,
Really?
It is a creative spot.
yeah. Also, we were like, it was like Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation time, so we learned choreography of Janet Jackson. I'm aging myself.
Oh man.
I'm like, oh, really? Can you still do it?
We are a part of the Rhythm Nation, so we're good. So don't age yourself. You're gonna age us too.
You're a part.
She's being inducted for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something.
Oh,
right?
wow.
She should be. She should have done it a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah, she's been in the game forever. So Gio, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan.
Yay! So Giovanni Ortega, I don't know how you describe yourself. You are an artist. You are a playwright. You are a poet. You're an actor. You are a teacher. You are a workshop facilitator. You do everything.
Jack of all trades.
I'm not a baseball player though, so I'm not very good at baseball. But as Allison De La Cruz calls herself, a multi-disciplinary artist. So
There you go.
I think that's
Good
one way of
definition.
calling it. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you were born in the Philippines.
that's right.
And how old were you when you came here?
I moved to Chicago when I was 12.
Oh.
12 years old.
How was that?
It was
Middle school, right? I'm always curious. Was that
Well, it
middle
was.
school?
I finished 6th grade, and
Yeah.
then back then we didn't have middle school, so I
Yeah.
was a freshman in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Then I left after the first month, and then I moved to Chicago, and I was like, "What do I do?" So I tried to get into high school, but I was 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, "No."
No, you gotta go to 7th grade.
Yeah, I skipped 7th grade, and I went straight to 8th grade.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Oh.
yeah, it was really insane. I mean, during that time, it's
Yeah.
just such a tough
Yeah.
time to be a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like Ryan, you came when
I
you
came when
were
I was 7.
7.
My brothers were about your age, about coming into 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I always wondered how they fared as we had a good chunk of time like between the vacations to kind of like be around the city, but the school part was always like nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
middle school and early part of high school,
Yeah.
students can be vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
No. Yeah, because my best friend came around the same time,
Yeah.
like 2nd grade. But then the schools that she kept going to didn't have openings in the grade she was supposed to be. So she did like 2nd grade multiple times. So which is why I realized that after she had told me that, I was like, oh, no wonder you always thought like you know everything better than all of us. But it's like, because you should have been like in like 4th grade. Or something like, or
Yeah.
3rd grade, and I was like, "Oh,
So do you have any kind of memorable stories from when you first came?
Yeah, actually, it was. I was like one of those typical fobs where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look so cool wearing my Esprit, and
I'm like, yes,
but then I found
Because it's Esprit.
Esprits.
doesn't cost anything.
It doesn't cost anything. Esprit.
I was like rainbow bright.
Wow.
And
oh,
right away I was like made fun of, and there were 2 girls who were twins, Diana and Donna Pingle, who are still really good friends of mine, and they were like, we gotta change
do
this.
something about this.
So by the
fix this."
by the end of like by the end of 8th grade, I was like a new waiver going to clubs.
Ooh.
That's like, well, underage clubs.
So you were welcome. You were welcomed. In
It
that
took a
sense.
couple of
Yeah.
months. Yeah, maybe January and February. I remember going to like dead of winter, going
Whoa.
to Medusa's in Chicago, which is like this like 18 and over or 16 and over club. With the twins, it was all new wave back then, so
My
they shaved my
God.
head. My mom was going crazy. She's like, "What the heck is happening to my son?"
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I did that.
So, how about were there other Filipinos in the community where you were at? Did your mom hang out with other Filipinos?
Not so much. I mean, we had family. So my aunt, 2 aunts, were already in Chicago, so we would spend time with them. But then it's a pretty strong community, much more now,
Yeah.
of Filipinos in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So the twins actually had cousins. So I got to hang out with them. And then by the time we got to high school, there's like a small Filipino club. I mean, not like here, but
Yeah.
a really strong visibility for Pinoys in the city.
Why Chicago? Like, why did your family pick there? Were there other relatives there already? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there were 2 other relatives at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like, my Tita Mercy was like, I'm in Chicago.
Come
over
here.
Yeah, basically. That's kind of how it happens, right?
Yeah.
So, from there, I just kind of went to high school, and then I always went back to Chicago. And I'm going to go in 3 weeks to see my nephews and stuff.
Did you go to college out there? Or?
Yeah, I did. I went to University of Illinois, Chicago.
Oh, Urbana-Champaign?
No,
No,
it's
it's
Chicago.
different campus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I only know that one. Sorry.
No, not a problem. Yeah, so I would always leave, and then I was always
Come
come
back.
back, come back to the city. Yeah.
Were you always like kind of artistically inclined?
I was like holding back for a really long time. My mother's side is pretty much into the performing arts. So, in fact, my mom was like discouraging because she knew what it was like. She was a singer, so she was like, I just don't want you to go through what I went through.
She's like, maybe you want to be an engineer.
She said nurse.
Oh, nurse.
I was like, why not a doctor? She's like, no, you'll make more money as a nurse. She's not a nurse, so
Not as much debt.
right.
Yeah.
So, but I just kept on doing it.
Yeah. Because it was your calling.
Yeah, exactly.
So what made you want to kind of pursue it full time?
Well, I was working for a Hyatt Regency. So by the time we got to college, it was just my mom and my younger brother. So by the time I got to college, she was like, I can't pay for you. So I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, a music scholarship. But I wanted to live on my own. So I moved out, but then I had to work. So I was working full time, and the Hyatt, they were hiring. So I worked at the Hyatt in 3 different properties, and they just kept on like moving me up.
Oh, nice.
And then I remember I had moved to Milwaukee at that point because I was doing AmeriCorps in Milwaukee. And the day they said, I think we're going to offer you a manager in training position, I was like, I'm quitting tomorrow. Just like saw my life flash before my eyes because I know it's going to be really good at it. But I was like, I'm going to be so miserable if I did this. So.
But you would have hotel rooms for free forever.
I know. Which is funny because my brother works for hotels now. So no, different part. Groupon, like the hotel part of it. Nice. He worked for the Hilton for a long time, so yeah.
So you talk about multi-disciplinary, multi-disciplines in the arts. What are your kind of favorite mediums to use? Or
it really depends. My training is really as a performer, as a singer and as an actor. But now that I get more jobs, I think I get more jobs as a director and as a writer. It depends on what I'm working on. So as an actor, as a performer, I always say it's the only thing I could think about because it's like mind, body, and soul, right? And not to discount like writing or directing, I could separate myself. I'm going to direct now and then teach and then write. But for as a performer, especially if you're singing, you have to like save your voice. You can't go out party.
That's no fun.
So it depends. And then I'm, as a writer, it's like it's all in your head. So you got to be like cooped up. I'm one of those writers who can't write outside. Like I have to like stay at home. Everything shut down. No music. Nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. Complete silence. Yeah. It's kind of solitary.
That also sounds not fun.
I know.
and you always write about like a big part of your the subject of your writing is the Filipino diaspora, Filipino experience. Can you talk about some of the works that you've done?
Well, I'll always credit like Marilyn Takuda from East West Players, and like 2010 when she called me and she's like, "Hey Gio, do you know someone who could write about Carlos Bulosan?" She's from Seattle, by the way, so he's staple in Seattle as well. Carlos Bulosan is, and I was like, "Oh yeah, let me I wrote something about Carlos Bulosan." She was like, no, I need a writer. So I sent her this stuff, and then to make a long story short, I was commissioned by East West Players to write the one-person show. And ever since then, I mean, last year Center Theater Group asked through Artists at Play with Stephanie and Marie Wren for for me to kind of revise it. So we toured it. It's like this story that keeps on
Building and growing.
building and growing from one person to two people to three to four, and I was actually a literature major in undergrad, so I would always be writing throughout my career, and from that point on, I was like, oh, this is something that I could do.
Yeah.
And so Carlos Bulosan's one, and then Criers for Hire, East West Players commissioned me to write that one as well. And so I just kept on being influenced. And then now that I get to travel a lot around the country and around the world, I really see the Filipino hyphenated diaspora. So it's really interesting because it's just like, as Filipino Australian or Filipino Italian or Filipino whatnot, there's a similarity. There's a relatedness, shared experience of those people who are born in a different country, but their parents or grandparents come from the Philippines. And so
And you've done workshops for them, right?
I've done workshops, especially in Australia and Singapore, and I was in Italy like 2 years ago, and there's now second generation.
Oh, really?
Filipino Italians, and in Canada, of course, is the Phil Cans. But the funny thing is, they always turn to what we've done here, because the Filipino American identity is so strong that they look at us and say, "Oh, well, there's such a strong community in the States.
Yeah.
We should as well." But it's funny because I was like in Australia, Michelle Baltazar invited me and Pascal Berry to do some work there, and they all have this like Pinoy events that are the same all over the world. You guys like, oh my god, this is just like Chicago, and the pageants,
just like LA
the
too,
pageants in LA,
The ballroom dancing.
the ballroom dancing. It's so funny.
Take you out of the Philippines, take the Philippines out of you.
Yeah, it's insane. I was like, oh my god, it's like I never left.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a manual somewhere.
It's so
Did somebody hit
how
you up to buy tickets to raffle
You have
tickets?
to, yeah. I'm hoping to go in June because they have the Independence Day.
Oh.
Yeah.
So someone will be like, I need to be queen. Please buy my thing of tickets.
The more I sell, the better chance I have.
I have.
So you talk about the shared experiences of Filipinos throughout the diaspora, and you try to write about them in some of your works, and you try to capture that. What kind of experiences? What's the essence you think that binds us all together, or what do you try to capture?
I mean, my mom was, was one of these women who left the country to fend for her family, right? I mean, I wasn't raised by my mom. I was raised by my Lola. So when I was like 6 months old, she corrected me. I was saying a month old. She was like, no, it's 6 months old that I left you. So she went to Japan and sang there. So, and then it was not until I was 12, I'd see her once or twice a year before I finally moved in with her when I was 12. I think the shared experience with these people, especially the women, is that I don't need you to feel sorry for me. I'm feeding my family. It's in Criers for Hire. I remember writing it. It's my mom used to say it. I don't have time for sorry. I only have time for solutions. She's like, I don't have time for that. What are you gonna do about it?
That's such a Filipino mindset, because throughout a lot of my organizing experience within LA, whenever somebody is we're talking out through an event or a problem, I always look at them like, okay, I don't care, but what are we gonna do to get it done? So I wonder if that's just I don't know, ingrained in our bodies and souls to be like, you can stick your sorries in a sack, mister. Let's get this shit done or something.
Yeah, I think that kind of mentality or behavior is really more more similar with the diaspora experience. I could be wrong, but I've heard people say, why would you feel sorry for me? Right? But in the Philippines, it's a totally different story, right? So, I mean, they're like bagong bayani, right? The new heroes are 10% of our country is actually going out and leaving the country to kind of like send money back home. Yeah, it's really interesting, especially with the whole mental health issues right now. And I do talk to it now about my mental health, and my mom's like, I don't mental health. Go work. Yeah. I don't have time for mental health. I work 18 hours a day. You know, then you always like, okay, I'm not talking anymore.
And we're like, we're trying to like talk about, you know, the fact that you probably are depressed, and maybe we should address it. And they're like, no, I have to go to work. I'm like, okay, never mind.
So for me, a lot of that it makes sense, right? The feeling of like, don't feel sorry for me, I'm doing something about it. But I always talk to my parents about that because they have pretty much a similar mentality. But you know, they've afforded me this opportunity.
Yeah.
And they've also afforded me I'm gonna use, for lack of a better term, the luxury of thinking about my mental health.
Oh, totally.
Right? Like, I think it's kind of a luxury that they've afforded me. And we always get into these battles about being Americanized and the thought of being Americanized. I said, you brought me here, you know? Like I was telling you brought me here. You know, you did good. There's a reason why I'm able to like think
Talk
about
back.
Yeah. But that's no. But you know, but you're right. Like, you know, I would argue with them, and I would talk back, and it's just never a good thing. But I would talk back, and I would say, your fault, dude. You brought me here.
It's really funny. So it's really wonderful. Like my mom takes care of my two nephews now. It's like me and my brother growing up, and now I have a nephew and two nephews, two boys. And one thing she said, and I was like, she's so in love with these two boys. And I was like, God, and she's like, she's now part-time working. And I was like, why don't you want to work full-time? I was like, I want to be with the boys. And she was like, you know, because I was never there when you boys were working, were growing up. Because she was working two jobs.
Yeah.
So now she's taking care of these two kids, and I get a text from my brother one day, and then he texts me, and he was like, "Mom just said I should be nicer to the boys and not yell at them." And we were just laughing. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" She would throw stuff at us before we would even talk back. Just before we clap back, she's like, "Poosh," you know. So
she's
funny.
totally embraced the grandma role, right? That's totally like grandma role, right?
Yeah.
I was raised by my grandma, so I totally get it.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So funny.
So Giovanni, you're gonna share with us some stories.
Yep.
3 stories. Can you talk a little bit about them?
So, I'll do an excerpt from the story of Carlos Bulosan, Alos, and Carlos Bulosan was also an immigrant who moved here when he was around 16, 17 years old from the Philippines in the 1930s, and worked as who became an immigrant union organizer, and also became a writer. As well as trying to work through all the racism during the late 30s, during the Great Depression, leading up to the World War II. So I always find it fascinating that there's so many similarities, even though it's been, almost 75 years. And then I'll do something called Wayne, which is based on a friend of mine and two friends of mine kind of combined it about a Filipino American soldier. And there's a huge contingency of Pinoys, my stepfather being one of them, who worked for the military. And another story about, actually a poem about women who do work overseas.
Nice.
Yep.
Great. So we are going to take a break, and when we come back, Gio is going to share his 3 stories with us.
Yes.
Cool.
Yo, what's a good thing to do on the Thursday night?
Television.
It's college nights, but not anymore.
Not anymore, no. It's actually a cool night to listen to me and Ryan talk on Kumu.
That's right.
What? You're on Kumu?
Yeah,
Yep.
sometimes. Actually, only twice.
Yeah.
But Kumu is a cool app that you should check out.
What happens on the app? What is Kumu?
It's a social live streaming app created for young Filipinos.
Hey, that's us. We're young. We're Filipinos.
Yeah, we're hip. We're hip. It's actually 82% millennial and Gen Z.
That's us.
That's us.
Is that us?
That's us 10 years before. 10 years before. But it's actually a really cool live streaming app created for Filipinos. They focus around community and live broadcasting technology. It allows users to connect in a raw and real environment. Live streamers are able to monetize in real time due to virtual gifts, which actually is real money to buy.
What?
Yeah.
So I can be on there and just be like, hey, give me money. I'll do this.
Yeah.
Like
People
sing
can make
on-
money. And it's really great entertainment too. Like there's a lot of people who are on it, and you could just it's really
So
fun to.
If I'm
join.
on it just singing karaoke, people can give me money to.
There are people who do karaoke on that channel. Yes.
Joe and I don't do that. We usually talk about living life here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the only tech platform that prioritizes geolinguistic context beyond just English and Tagalog. So, for example, Bisaya, Ilocano, Ilonggo, Bicolano dialects are well represented on the Kumu app.
What about English?
Yeah. Obviously English, yes. Kumu has been downloaded in over 55 countries with over 8 million monthly app visits from 400,000 users. And it's a very safe, positive, and accepting place for Filipinos from three key segments of the population: overseas Filipinos, Filipinos in big provincial cities, and Filipinos in Metro Manila.
Cool.
Yeah, so if you have want to get in the know, you want to get into the coolest app available, download Kumu now.
An excerpt from Alos, the story of Carlos Bulosan. America. It was a June day in Seattle. Everything seemed native and promising to me. Tall buildings and valleys next to each other. 20 cents and this old-timer said to me, "Psst, huy kid! You'll get run over by a car standing in the middle of the street like that. Come with us to Chinatown. There's a hotel on King Street filled with Pinoys. Halika na, there's one more space for you in the car." When the 7 of us got to the room, 2 guys were playing pusoy, poker, and the rest joined in, except me. Then 2 visitors left and disappeared. It was an hour later when my companions realized that all their money were stolen. This is not even going to pay for anything. That's the landlord. Naku, what are we gonna do? He's gone. All right, Pinoys, you are working for me now. My name is Jake. I just paid your rent, $25. Get your hats and follow me. Leave your suitcases here. I'll take care of them until you get back from Alaska. Good fishing, boys. Boss, I brought you 75 strapping young lads, all under 25 years old. Strong as a carabao. How much? $7.50 each, which makes the total $562.50. Oh, sige, I'll give you a discount. Make it $562 even. We all worked under this man for a month, and after that was over, he disappeared in the middle of the night. Boss, you want me to sign this? But this says $40 for bedding and luxuries. What luxuries? I go to my coworkers. All we do is work 14-hour days in the fish canneries. There's 15 of us in a room, and the bunkhouses we sleep in at night is unfit even for the fish that we catch. What luxuries! Manongs are getting sick because of the ammonia in the machines, and the lighting system is dangerous for our eyes. Something has to change. When I landed in Seattle a second time, all right, boss, deduct the money from the room and board. $13? What am I supposed to do with this? Even $13 will not get you far in the 30s. What happens when you run out of money? You don't eat. And I found out immediately that a hungry minority is not a good place to be. Yet if you look hard enough, there's always work to be found in America. He's right. It's clear we have our differences. But mga manong, we Filipinos must stick together because many have become suspicious of us. Don't forget the 2 Pinoys found dead last week by Sunnyside. People are afraid that we are out to take away their jobs. Only if we are united can we put our ideas together. Huh? Create our own union, Jose? Our very own labor union? In 1933, we formed the Cannery Workers and Farm Laborers Union, which later became Local 37 of the American Federation of Labor. This is also where I found many of my lifelong friends and allies like Jose. Hermano, your boss trusts you because you're a hard worker. Convince him to hire the whole group. Tell him that you can provide him with reliable men to work in the farms. There are so many Pinoy migrant workers scattered all over the country. You know them, leaders like Milar and Ganso. We traveled by boxcars and hitchhiked from farms of small towns called Maxi City, prairie towns like Grandview, Sunnyside, Santa Maria, San Luis Obispo, and to bigger areas like Santa Barbara and Stockton. They are afraid, my brother. They are afraid of our mighty fists, my brother. They are afraid of the magnificence of our works, my brother. They are even afraid of our songs of love, my brother. We don't allow brown monkeys here in Klamath Falls. Best you go with us. Where did you come from? Are you Filipino? Thought so. Walk to the border of California and we will follow you until you do. Go, Gugu! Trespassing. The cops smelled like whiskey when they dragged me out of the cell. They got into their car as I walked in front. Whenever I slowed down, they would hit me with a bumper. Don't stare, anak. After 2 days and 3 nights, I caught a freight train to San Francisco. I'd like to build a home here someday. Not in Klamath Falls. How can a place so beautiful have so much hate in it? It was like this for a long time, hopping from one place to the other looking for work. Yes, boss, I'll wash your dishes for $7 a week. I ran away from that job after 3 weeks. You've never seen me here in Santa Barbara, sir, because I just arrived. Of course I can work in the bakery. No problem. 3 months, then I was gone. Now in bigger towns, no matter how bad the work was, we'd get dressed up. O sige, I'll meet you there. Sometimes we'd get dressed up even if we don't have a job. Now, a Filipino who has a job in a restaurant, a hotel, or a rich person's home would carry his work clothes in a small bag, a bindle stiff, and afterwards go to a gambling house or a dance hall. I used to go often because I loved to dance. But after a while, it became too loud. I remembered Miss Strandon and found the library. Silence. It smells of knowledge. I was at a library in Lombok when I overheard Pinoys talking about going to a Landstrom cafe. Curiosity led me there that night. There's a Filipino smoking a cigar and spitting like a big man into a box on the floor. He's going to the back where people are gambling and cursing. I'm going to follow him. Please, don't shoot! Manong? I'm sorry? Manong, kapatid mo ko. I don't know who you are. Taga-Mangusma na tayo. Nakalimutan mo na ba ang simoy ng hangin sa bayan? Naalala mo ba nung hinampas mo yung kalabaw sa ulan dahil ayaw gumalaw? You've got the wrong person. O nung nahulog ako sa puno ng buko at dinalhan mo ko ng mga dyaryo para may mabasa sa bahay. Nakalimutan mo na ba nung hinawakan mo ang aking ulo tapos tumakbo ka papunta sa binalunan para magtrabaho? Manong kitikite si Alos ako. If you really are my brother, tell me our mother's name. Miteria. Pero ang tunay niyang pangalan ay Autilia Sampayan. Nagbibenta kami ng bagoong at asin sa mga bayan noon. It's been so long since I heard the sound of home. Look at you. My, have you grown. I had almost forgotten you. Please forgive me, brother. Life is tough here, Carl. I had a good job and the depression came. You shouldn't have come to America. Now you can never go back. We are in the bootleg racket. Join us if you like, but it can be very dangerous. Prohibition. Amado put money in my pocket when he realized that I was not planning to stay and work with him. I left for Los Angeles. He called me Carl. It was a gunshot. I was on Vermont Avenue at a pool room when two policemen shot a Filipino in the back. As I was leaving, Macario entered the restaurant. Carl, a scene of a crime is not a good place to be. Halika na. Let's get out of here and go to my hotel room on Broadway Street. Stay with me. We'll find work together. There are many rich people here on Wilshire. We will walk on opposite sides of the street and go to different houses. Oh, ask if they need their rugs cleaned. Now grab the rugs one by one, roll up your sleeves and your pants. Beat them. Beat these carpets as much as you can with the broom they give you. After cleaning rugs, we went back to the house to get paid. When the man paid with coins, Macario complained, 50 cents for 8 hours of work? What more do you want, you brown monkey? Was his answer. My educated brother is just another brown monkey in America. We have to come from a different angle, Carl, an angle where they don't have to see our brown skin yet still hear us. The pen is mightier than the fist. We will fight through our words and publish our very own magazine called The New Tide. Right? It's as if I've never heard of that word before. His words ignited a fire inside of me. The pen became my weapon and the paper my shield. I saw myself talking to millions without ever opening my mouth. Millar was one of our newspaper reporters, and with the help of Jose and Ganso, we were able to interview workers everywhere. And when they published the first issue, we took 100 copies and distributed them. Mga kababayan, workers of the field, our stories are in these papers. Read them and talk about our struggle. And make sure to read it out loud to those who do not have the luxury to do so. They too are part of our movement. The publication of the new tide strengthened the Filipino Workers Association and the UCA-PAWA, or United Cannery Agricultural Packing and Allied Workers of America. But word got around and retaliation is inevitable. Jose and other labor leaders met up in Millar's house in San Francisco to set out a plan. Look, special committees have been formed in the state legislature, in Congress, to have migratory workers regimented. They are also trying to dismantle our unionism by telling lies. Our kababayans in urban and rural areas must stick together. Then we will proceed to join forces with our Mexican brothers and plan an all-out statewide strike. Wayne, A Soldier's Tale. I never doubted myself for a second, and I've had a couple of close calls. Instances where I could have shot somebody totally illegally and probably, under any other evidence, circumstances, should have, and I just followed my gut, and when I did, it turned out to be something completely different. You know what I mean? Nobody knew why we were in Iraq when the war first started. And everybody he's a patriot, and it's cool because you just want to do the best job for your country. But I believe in everything that I was doing because I took everything to heart. I always took everything seriously and never associated violence with anger. Now, there's some people out there who are angry and use heavy metal when we go out on a mission. I don't look at it like that. Hey, buddy, if you're going to shoot at me, I'm gonna smoke you. And if you don't shoot at me, I'm not gonna smoke you. That's cool, We can go home, have tea, live another day. And if you look at it like that, a lot of the emotion gets removed from it. You will always make the right decision. Now, we would go on raids in the middle of the night. We would kick down doors, run in the house, face paint with war, screaming and yelling in horrible Arabic. Yalla, yalla, get down. Stop, I'll shoot. Don't move. And it was funny because I'm a big boy. I have like 210 pounds of muscle, and I'm a machine gunner, and I have all these gear on and face paint. I used to look like a demon running in there, kicking down these doors, and the only way to survive a raid is speed and violence of action. It didn't matter what's in the house. And usually there's a family in the house with kids. It doesn't matter. Speed and violence of action is the only way to survive a raid, and that's what they teach, and I believe in that. Violence of action doesn't mean you go in there and you brutally, violently to everyone. It means the way you do things. It means you rush. You very thoroughly kick in the door. You run from room to room. It's not about being the tough guy football player. It's about living. It's about surviving. So my mother would send me all these Beanie Babies because there were kids all over. So she would send candies and Beanie Babies all the time. So I would do a raid with, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, hand grenades, flashbangs, all these other stuff strapped to me. But then my huge cargo pockets in my BDUs, my pants, would be full of like 5 to 8 Beanie Babies. Clearing. Going on the right corner, going. I'd be running into rooms, kicking down doors, grabbing people, throwing them on the floors, and stop. Some kid in the back room. I'd hand him a Beanie Baby, then run into the next room. This kid would be crying, and all of a sudden, there's a Beanie Baby in his hand. Starts shaking it, and all of a sudden, he'd calm down. You see, after the raid, after everything is over, we are the nicest, the politest. Now, this doesn't go for everybody. It's what we try to be. The nicest and politest people to everyone in that house, and usually including the people that we capture, because not all of them are bad guys that we capture. And normally, what we do is take them to the next the bigger base, and we test their hands for chemical residue and whether or not they were dealing with explosives. Okay, sir. You're gonna get into the Humvee now. Watch your head. We'd write down everything. We would leave an AK-47 with the family even if we capture all these terrorists. We would leave one because they were allowed to have one. You know, every family is allowed to have an AK-47, which to me made sense. Yeah, it's fully automatic, but you have to understand also it's pretty much the only firearm they have in that country, and that's what they use to protect themselves. And we all believe that's cool, you know, to have that. It's the law. They were allowed to. See, we took all the men in this house, so it's not fair to leave this family defenseless against bandits or whatever. You know what I mean? We would leave them behind. We would also replace everything we broke. We would write down every doorway that we kicked in, everything within reason. I'm sure there were things that we broke, that we forgot to write down, but I remember every doorway. Like once we had to pull this gate off and run in because remember, we're not worried about people's property. We're worried about American soldiers living first and second civilians, and that's the way it should be, and I believe in the least amount of collateral damage as possible. But you look out for your boys first. You know what I mean? The best way to have the least casualties overall with soldiers, civilians, and enemy. All that three combined in order is the way to do things. And like soldiers and civilians are dissimilar. Equal value, but in a way it's not. Like if I am taking fire from this building, it's tearing up my guys. I'm going to launch a rocket in that building. There might be a family in there, but I'm taking fire. I'm sorry, this is war. I believe in the least amount of civilian casualties as much as possible and all that other stuff, but it is war. You should do everything, absolutely everything in your power to save people and everything like that. But if your boys are getting taken down by like somebody, you launch a rocket in that building. It's war. It sounds really brutal at first, but in the end, we make sure we take care of everyone. Letter 5 from Ang Gitano, the Gypsy. Nung lumuwas ako, ang dami nating utang, parang nalulunod ako sa utang. Hindi ka pa naman marunong lumangoy. Kailangan nating makahinga ng pera kaya umalis ako para magtrabaho kesa maningkinip sa bahay. When I left, we owed so much, I felt that we were drowning in debt. And you don't know how to swim. I needed to breathe money, so I flew to work instead of dream at home. The balikbayan box should arrive any day now, just in time for simbang gabi. Midnight mass, where you eat bibingka at 5 a.m. and wait for baby Jesus to arrive. There are Tim Tams, Kit Kat, and Cadbury chocolates. But brush your teeth, so it doesn't decay like kids from squatter areas who live in cardboard boxes and barbed wire fences. The portable cassette player is wrapped in bubbles and sweat. And there are Nike shoes and 2 blue suits that you can use. Sa eskwela, they wear blue uniforms here. Like your school Angelicum, students live in multiplicity. Waitara is close enough to Banawe. When laughter trails off with children teasing each other inside the M30 buses headed to Mossman instead of jeepneys to Quiapo. Iba ang dating ng mga bata dito sa Australia. Hindi nahihiya katulad sa atin. The children are different here in Australia. They're not shy to be themselves. Always be good to your lola, who scratches your back to sleep. I do the same for Donovan, the child I'm taking care of dito. Named after a singer, He's 9, like you, but with aqua eyes, like the water in Puerto Princesa. I close my eyes when I rub his back at night, pretending that it's you beside me. Remind your Lola to send me your latest photo and always obey your grandmother. Smile as wide as the sea so I can see your joy from afar. Lovingly, Malu.
This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Colado, legal advisor Rianne Fajardo, and graphic design by Vincent Collyer.